Hello, it's Thursday, and today we are making a flock of tiny birds. Now, to avoid getting pinged for language, I'm going to say that this one here is a white bird, an Indian ringneck, a rainbow lorikeet, a peach-faced lovebird, and a yellow and grey bird. Now, those eagle-eyed among you might find these patterns to be oddly familiar. Oh, didn't mean to flip you the bird. But anyway, Articuno was such a solid base pattern that I've used it to create the 5 birds you see in front of you. I was a little bit indecisive though. From the pieces that I show you how to make today, you can choose a body and then parrot with whatever wings, feet and crest you like. Sound good? Okay, so let's talk tools and materials. For today's project, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn, also known as DK. Now, as you know, I'm going to show you several birds today, but for our main bird, I'm going to be making a white/umbrella cockatoo. So that is why I have white here for the main body, yellow for her crest, and grey for her beak and feet. You're also going to need a pair of 9mm safety eyes, your 3.5mm hook, scissors, pins and needles, and some stuffing. Bunch of little sausage rolls, look at them. So depending on which bird you're making today, you will need a different colour combination. So for the rainbow lorikeet, you will need green, grey, orange, yellow and blue, and the brighter those colours are, the better. For your ringneck parrot, I have used green, black, orange and grey, though they obviously come in a variety of different colours and you should make your choices accordingly. For your cockatiel, you would need grey, yellow, white, orangey red for her Pikachu cheeks and little pink feet. And to make a peach-faced lovebird, you will need an orange, green and yellow. Now, Articuno is a Patreon exclusive. I'm including her here just because this is basically her pattern. But if you're making her, you will of course need this in a variety of blues. So a written version of today's pattern will be made available to my patrons and will also be listed on my Etsy. And that written version will include these 5 birds. And then the Patreon pattern will also include Articuno as kind of like a Patreon exclusive. I will leave links to both in the description down below for anybody who's interested. Sorry, I just needed to hawk my wares for a little bit. So the reason I'm showing you the cockatoo today is because her body is all one colour, whereas the others all have a lot of colour changes in them. So this way we'll be able to focus on the structure of the bird, and then it'll be a lot easier when you attempt the colour changed versions for yourselves. So starting in my white, I'm going to make a magic ring of 6. So there's the top of her head. We're then going to work 6 increases around to get us up to 12 stitches. And then 6 repeats of a single crochet and then an increase. So there is our first one, and we're going to work 5 more of those around to get our row up to 18 stitches. There we are at the end of row 3. Round 4 is 3 repeats of 5 single crochet, and then an increase. So there is our first repeat, and we're going to do that twice more to get our round up to 21 stitches. Then round 5 is just 21 stitches around. So there we have the little dome at the top of our birdie's head. So over the next 2 rows, we'll be building her beak. So we're going to start by working 6 single crochet around to where we want the beak to be, stopping to do a color change in the 6th stitch. So there's 5, and so in the 6th, I'm going to change to my beak color, which for me is gray. So to work all color changes for this pattern, what you do is we always change color in the stitch before we want the new color to be active. So what you'll see in the pattern is it'll indicate where we need the color to be active. So in the stitch before that, we change colors. And how I'm going to do that is insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I've got 2 loops on my hook, hold that out of the way, grab my gray, and then I'm going to hold it on the inside of the work and pinch at the base of the stitch, then yarn over with it and pull through those 2 loops to finish off that single crochet. Now you'll note that it's a bit loose, so I'm going to tug on the white tail to settle it down. And what that will leave you with is a finished single crochet in our white, and our gray is on the hook ready to go. So when you look at the beak on these birds, you'll note we have this sort of hooked top beak, and then this flat little sort of bubble bottom beak sitting underneath it. Now I have looked, and the stitch that I've done for the top beak, it's kind of like a bobble stitch with a picot in the middle of it, and I can't find an official stitch that goes by that name. So I'm going to step through this stitch here very, very carefully, and you can let me know in the comments if it has a name, because you guys are great for helping me learn these things. So for the upper beak, we're going to start by yarning over our hook, inserting into the stitch, yarning over, pulling up a loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. I'm then going to do that 2 more times, all into that same stitch. So yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on our hook. So that's our second time, and we've got 3 loops on our hook now. And I'm going to do it one more, leaving me with 4 loops in total on my hook, and you'll see that all of those have been worked into the same stitch. So we're then going to work a picot, and that picot is going to be worked just through this front loop, and we try and just pretend these back 3 loops aren't on our hook for now. So I'm going to yarn over and chain 1, 2, 3. So that's what it currently looks like. And then we're going to insert our hook through the first chain that we did, like so, and slip stitch into it. So yarn over, pull through the loop of the chain and through the front loop of those loops on our hook. So what you should see there is you have your base loop on your hook, you have 2 loops leading to these little stubs that we've made, and then we have this final loop which has a stub at the base of it and a picot attached to it. 4 loops on your hook in total. So I'm going to poke that picot through to the front. So it might want to curl under like that. You just need to poke it through to the front. And we're actually going to work 3 more of those little stubs, again, all into this same stitch. So we're going to yarn over, insert into that stitch again, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on our hook. So there is our 4th one, and we have just 2 more to go. 1 more. So by the end of that, you should have 7 loops on your hook, and your picot should be at the front. So we actually are then going to change back to our white to continue working the head. So you'll note that the white wasn't trimmed off earlier, it's still just attached to the base of the stitch. So I'm going to hold this gray out of the way, grab the strand of my white, yarn over with it and pull through all 7 loops. Tighten that stitch down. So that is what your beak should currently look like, and the next row that we work will help pull it down into position. So then we are just going to work 14 single crochet around in our white, not trimming off our grey just yet, to get back to our starting place. like so. So that is what your cockatoo should currently look like. Now this beak is the same stitch for all of the birds, we just do it in different colours. So then in row 7, we're going to work the lower beak. So we start by working 6 single crochet up to where the beak is, once again changing to our grey in the 6th stitch. So that's 5, and then in the 6th stitch we're going to change colours, like so. And then we're going to work the lower beak. So the lower beak is worked over 2 stitches. And we're going to put a 2 double crochet cluster into each. Now all that means is you yarn over your hook, insert into the first stitch, which will be the grey one at the base of your top beak, yarn over and pull up a loop, leaving you with 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Then we're going to yarn over and insert into the same stitch again, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. So that should leave you with 3 loops on your hook. You're then going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So it's kind of the same as putting 2 double crochet into the same stitch, but it'll leave you with just 1 loop on top instead of 2. And we're going to do that again in the next stitch, which is the first white stitch after the beak. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, work through the first 2 loops, then yarn over and do it again. So once again, this leaves you with 3 loops on your hook. You're going to hold your grey out of the way, grab your white, and we're going to change back to our white by yarning over and pulling all 3 loops. Then you finish your round by working 13 single crochet back to the start. So at this point I am going to trim off my grey, and that is what your beak should look like. So as you stuff it and over time the point of that beak will point downwards a little bit more, but you can see there it's given you like this nice like hooked top beak and this nice little under chompy beak. So that is how you make a parakeet, lorikeet, cockatiel beak. That's how you make a beak. So from here the pattern gets a lot more straightforward. So we're going to start with 2 rows of 21 single crochet for a combined total of 42 stitches. Like so. Then row 10 is 2 single crochet, an increase, ten single crochet, an increase, 4 single crochet, an increase, and then 2 single crochet back to our starting point. Row 11 is very similar, so it starts with 3 single crochet, then an increase, 5 single crochet to the front of your cocky, and an increase that should fall basically directly under the beak, 4 single crochet, and yes, that will make your bird slightly uneven on both sides. We are accounting for the spiral, and then an increase, and 9 single crochet to get back to our starting point. So you should see that it's starting to like flare out a little bit in a couple of places. Then rows 12 and 13 are both 27 single crochet around for a combined total of 54 stitches. So you'll note that I work in the spiral, which means that my starting and ending point for my row is now basically in the center back of the head. So we've kind of drifted from where we were over here, and now we're all the way back here. So you'll note that it's already starting to curve out a little bit. Over the next 4 rows, we're going to curve out and then back in to create the illusion of 2 little chicken drumsticks. So for row 14, it starts with 5 single crochet, and then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. You're then going to work 12 single crochet across the front of your bird. Which should get you around to roughly the same spot on the opposite side. And once again, put 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. Then it's just 8 single crochet back to our starting point. So those 2 like increase patches that we just did, they are where your legs are going to sit. So make sure that you are happy that they are on the sides of your bird. So row 15 starts with 5 single crochet. Which will bring you around to where you put 3 stitches into the same stitch. So into the first of those stitches, you're going to work an increase. In the middle stitch, you're going to work 3 single crochet. And then in the third stitch, you're going to work an increase. Just going to give him like this weird little paddle sticking out the side of him. Just trust the process here. You're then going to work 12 single crochet, back around the front to where we put the other leg. And then once again, increase. 3 single crochet into the same stitch. And increase. Then once again, it's 8 single crochet back to our starting point. That's what it looks like at the end of row 15. So now row 16 and 17, we're going to start pulling these back in. So we start with 5 single crochet round to our first drumstick. Then we're going to work 7 single crochet around the drumstick. And then we're going to work a single crochet 3 together. So how I do those is I insert my hook into the front loops only of the next 3 stitches, yarn over and pull up a loop through all 3, then yarn over and pull it through those last 2 loops to finish off the stitch. So that's what that should all look like. Then 6 single crochet across his front. And then just before his second drumstick, we're going to single crochet 3 together again. Then we're just working single crochet back to our starting point. So first that's 7 single crochet around the drumstick. And and then 8 single crochet back to our starting point. There's an update on the shape. So row 17 starts with 4 single crochet. Then a decrease, 6 single crochet, single crochet 3 together, 2 single crochet, single crochet 3 together, 6 single crochet, a decrease, and then 7 single crochet back to our starting point. So that's what we're looking like at the end of row 17. So you might look a little bit lumpy and bumpy. The stuffing will help smooth out some of those odd curves. But for now, we are going to stop and pop our eyes in. So I'm using 9mm eyes today, and just because I've used them on all of my birds, but I do want to say that I think they look super cute with like 20mm safety eyes as well. Okay, I only have like a Cthulhu horror eye next to me, but like, picture that, right? All in black. So I actually don't think eye size needs to be particularly specific for this pattern, but anything from a 9mm safety eye up to a 20mm safety eye would work. So the eyes are going to go in after row 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to insert them 2 stitches back from the beak. So then same thing on the other side, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 stitches back. And then just check to make sure that they're even. And when happy, snap your backs on. And he can see. So now we're just going to keep working to close off the front of the bird and the sides, and we're going to slowly be migrating this opening towards the back so we can build out the tail. So row 18 is 10 single crochet. We're going to single crochet 3 together twice. So there is our first one. And our second one, and then 13 single crochet back to our starting point. Row 19 is 6 single crochet, single crochet 3 together, and then a single crochet, a decrease, and a single crochet. Then we're going to single crochet 3 together again, and work 9 single crochet back to our starting point. Then row 20 is 5 single crochet, single crochet 3 together, single crochet, single crochet 3 together, and then 8 single crochet back to our starting point. So here we are at the end of row 20. He's got a very strange, like pinched in form to the front of him, but as we stuff, which we're about to do now, those will pop back out and form him into a nice chubby little bird. So grab your stuffing, and we're going to rip it into cotton ball sized puffs. And then one little puff at a time, feed your bird. Now make sure you stuff the body really thoroughly because we will not be stuffing again after this point. We don't want any stuffing in the tail section. And there is our chubby little fella. So from here we're going to be building out the tail. This starts in row 21 as we work 3 single crochet and then a decrease, single crochet 3 together, and a decrease, and then 6 single crochet back to our start. Now you'll note we're still loading decreases at the front of this opening to encourage the tail to be at the back. So then row 22 is 3 single crochet, 2 decreases, three single crochet, and then 2 increases. So that row is actually going to maintain at 12 stitches around. What it's doing is pushing our opening from straight down this way to off towards the back so that the tail sort of pokes out backwards when our little bird sits. So row 23 starts with 2 single crochet, then 2 decreases, then 3 single crochet, two increases, and a single crochet. So from here we're just going to work 2 more rows to close off the end of this tail. So we start with 3 decreases, and then 6 single crochet, then 3 decreases again, and 3 single crochet to finish the round. Finish off. So you'll note that we have not got any stuffing in this tail piece, so I can squish it flat to act as the tail. But what we do have is this little opening at the end. Now if you want a square end to your tail, you can just sew this little opening shut, or you can take your remaining tail and just pull it through the front loops of each of those stitches. And pull to close, which will give you a bit more of a point. Now mine looks a little bit wonky at the moment because there's like this little vacuum that I didn't quite get enough stuffing into, so I'm just going to use my hook to pull some stuffing down. It should help balance him out a little bit. Tuck that end away inside. So there is our cockatoo body. Now that is the exact same body shape that you use for the cockatiel, you use it for the lovebird, you use it for the Indian ringneck, and you use it for the rainbow lorikeet. This is what it looks like when you make it all in one colour. So our cockatoo needs some bits attached. So I'm going to start with his feet. So for all my little birds, I've done this little X-shaped foot assortment because even though they all seem to have like 3 front claws and 1 back claw, whenever they're gripping anything, it seems that they end up with 2 claws in front and 2 claws behind. So I just thought this little crisscross shape was just more accurate to how the birds look. So for the sake of clarity on these feet, I've just removed the purple card so you can see. I'm sorry if the white's a little bit worse for wear. There is a reason I normally use cardboard, but I also want you to be able to see what I'm doing today. So to create the feet, I'm going to grab my grey for the cockatoo, though you can also make these in pink or yellow depending on which bird you're making. And we're going to start with a magic ring of 6. So there is the sole of your foot. We're then going to work a single crochet, And then we're going to build his first 2 toes. So how we do that is by working a triple crochet in the front loop and then a slip stitch into the back loop of the same stitch. So a triple crochet is when you yarn over twice, insert your hook through the front loop only in this case, yarn over and pull up a loop, leaving you with 4 loops on your hook. We're then going to yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the second 2, and then yarn over and pull through the final 2 loops. So that is what your treble crochet looks like, treble or triple crochet. We're then going to fold that forward and slip stitch into the back loop of the same stitch. So that should create this little like folded over bobble of a toe. And we're going to do the same thing in the next stitch as well. So triple crochet in the front loop and slip stitch into the back loop. So there are his first 2 little claws. I just want to say in the next row you will only be working into the triple crochet loops from this row, not the slip stitch loops from this row. So if you need to mark them, you can go ahead and do that now. Then we're just going to work 1 single crochet through both loops, which brings us to the back of the foot, and we're going to work 2 more claws the exact same way. So 1, and 2. So there we are at the end of row 2. You should be able to see all 4 claws at this point. Then we have just 1 round to go, which is 6 single crochet around. So that starts with a single crochet through the first single crochet of row 2, and then a single crochet into each of the triple crochets. Again, being careful to skip the slip stitches in between. A single crochet into the second single crochet of row 2, and then a single crochet into each of the triple crochets. And then we are going to finish off. So I'm going to trim off our starting tail, tuck that inside the foot. Now, because this is going to be attached underneath, you can leave this as an open end and just sew it to the body straight, but with all of my other feet, what I've done is I've just taken this tail, pulled it through the front loops like we did on the main body piece, and then pull tight to close and tuck that end away inside. There's not a lot of room, but there is room for one little end. So there is your first little foot, and you are of course going to need 2 of them. So we can pop those to one side for now. So finally we need a little head crest piece, because he is a cocky after all. So I'm going to start by making one in yellow, and then I might layer up a couple in yellow, maybe with a white one on top, I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to grab my yellow for this, and we're going to start by chaining 10. Like so. So now in the next round, we're going to be working first down the tops of the stitches, then turning and working up the backs of the stitches. So that is going to be our round. So turning our work and starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to start by slip stitching, and then a single crochet, then a half double crochet, which is where you yarn over, insert your hook through the loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook, then a double crochet where you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So again, you've got 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops at a time, and until you're left with just 1 loop on your hook. And we're then going to work a treble crochet, which is where you yarn over twice, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So that leaves you with 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 at a time until you complete the stitch. So there we are at this point. Then we're going to double crochet into the next stitch, then half double crochet into the stitch after that, and it should be wanting to curl in on itself a little bit at this point. Then we're going to single crochet and then slip stitch into the final stitch, And then we're going to work a picot. So you might remember this from the beak. It's a little bit easier here, but we're going to just chain 3. Then insert your hook into the first of the 3 chains and slip stitch. So there is our picot. And now working up the backs of those chains, we are going to slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, then double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet, and then slip stitch and finish off. So this end with the tail will be the end that goes against the beak. So for the cockatoo, I have decided that I'm going to layer up 3 copies of the same crest. Now, if you're just making the cockatiel, you only need 1 of them, but for the cockatoo, you need 3. So pop those to one side for now, and we're going to make the wings. So that brings us to wings. Now for the wings, you do have options. So I have decided that I am going to include both the up wing, the tantrum wing, and this little well-behaved, quiet down wing today. Though I do want to be clear here, I actually think this little bird base is fine without the wings if you choose not to fiddle around with them. Now for my cockatoo, I think I'm going to give him tantrum wings today, so I'm going to start with those. So I've referred to them as tantrum wings. The pattern is officially calling them up wings, so don't get them confused. And using my white, I'm going to start by chaining 12. Like so. So we're then going to turn, and starting in the second chain from our hook, work 5 single crochet down the chain. And then an increase, 4 single crochet down the chain, and then finally an increase in the last chain. So right away what you can see there, what we've done is that increase has forced this chain into an L-shaped position, which is how we get that bend in the wing that makes it look all flared and up. So that's how you go from a straight chain to a bent chain. And we're going to encourage that bend over the next 2 rows. So there we are at the end of row 4, and you'll see we've got this like nice meaty part of the wing worked up, and now it's time to add some feathers. So there are 2 kinds of feathers. There are long sort of pin feathers at the top, and then some shorter flight type feathers at the bottom. I probably named them wrong. I just mean that there are long feathers and short feathers. So to start row 5, we are going to just turn. We don't need to chain there, we're just going to turn our work. We're going to start by chaining 5. So then starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to work 4 single crochet back down that chain. So there is our first feather, and now we need to attach it to the wing. So we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of that row, which attaches that feather, and then we're going to slip stitch again to move 1 space along. So that is our first large feather. We are going to do that 4 more times. So chain 5, 4 single crochet down the chain, and then slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the base of the wing. So there are our 5 large feathers, and you'll note that brings you to kind of the point of the elbow. We're going to carry on and we're going to work some smaller feathers along the lower part of the elbow. So we make the smaller feathers in a very similar way. We start by chaining 4, then work 3 single crochet down those chains, and slip stitch into the next stitch along the base of the arm. So there's not 2 slip stitches in between this time, there's just 1. So there is our first small feather, and you're going to work 6 more of those. So there's the final slip stitch on the 7th one. So that is what your wing should currently look like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 small feathers and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large feathers. So now we just need to reinforce this shoulder a little bit. So in order to do that, we're going to work up the side and then along the top for a little bit. So that is 2 stitches up the side, like so, and then 7 stitches along the top of the wing. Then slip stitch and finish off. And I do recommend leaving a longish tail so you can weave it back through to the shoulder point to help hide that end. So now I'm just going to take these 2 tails and just weave them back in and out of the stitches just to hide them a little bit better. And I'm going to leave that sort of sticking out the end because I'll tuck that away inside the body later. If your feathers are a little bit warped or crooked, just give them a little tug. That should straighten them right out. But bear in mind, as you work with this piece, it's going to get crumpled again. And there is the up wing or the tantrum wing or the waving wing, depending on how you want to see it. So for these up wings, you just make 2 exactly the same. And when it comes to the shoulder, you just curve the shoulder whichever way you want the wing to be facing. So just by dimpling it that way. But as mentioned, you also have the option of doing a significantly easier, in my opinion, like little down wing. So we're going to just cover those really quickly now. So we start by working 3 rows, increasing by 6 in each row to get us up to 18 stitches around. So just like that. So that is the same regardless of if you're working on your left wing or your right wing. And then row 4 is the main difference. So I'm going to start by showing you how to make the right wing. So you start by working 14 single crochet around. Which should leave you 4 stitches in your round. And in them we're going to build up some wing feathers. So we do that by working a double crochet into the next stitch, then a triple or treble crochet into the one after that. So that's the one where you start by yarning over twice. Then in the next one, we're going to work a double treble, which is when you yarn over 3 times. And then finally, we're going to work a treble treble or triple treble, which is where you yarn over 4 times. So then you would finish off, and that is your right wing. You can tell it's the right wing because the feathers, when attached to the back of your bird, will point towards his spine. That is really hard to see, but yeah. So I'm just going to frog those last 4 stitches. So then you have your left wing, which starts with the same first 3 rows, and then 4th row starts with 13 single crochet around, which I've already done here. You are then going to chain 6. Those chains basically are a replacement for the treble treble we did at the end of the right wing. So we start with that chain 6. Then we're going to work a double treble, which is when you yarn over 3 times into the next stitch. And then a regular treble, which is when you yarn over twice. Double crochet, yarning over once. And then finally a single crochet, and then slip stitch to finish off. And so you'll see there we've now got a wing with the feathers facing the other way, which is how you know it's a left wing. So if you'd like to see them both together on screen, I'll just grab some green ones now because I haven't assembled any of my other little parrots yet. So you see here we've got our right wing with the feathers pointing in, and the left wing with the feathers pointing in. You could even do like one of each if you want them to be waving. Kind of far-fetched. But yeah, that's how you make the wings. Okay, so now we have the assortment of bits that I'm going to use to make my cockatoo. Your assortment of pieces may look different depending on which bird you're making. The time has come to assemble. Now, there are sort of a few different methodologies when it comes to assembling creatures. I always try to attach the most fragile piece, which in this case is the wings, last. So we're going to actually start by assembling his crest. He's such a cute little chubby guy. So if you're making the cockatiel and you were just using one of these head fins, you would start by just pinning the finishing off end directly where his beak is, folding up the sides slightly, and basically pinning it and sewing it into position like that, which you could also do for the cockatoo, I suppose. But because I'm doing a cockatoo, we don't want to start that close to the beak. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take our first little crest piece, I'm going to find that magic ring and I'm going to pin it basically straight down through that magic ring. Then I'm going to grab my next crest piece and I'm going to pin it 1 row in front, just over the top like that. And then our last crest piece and pin it 1 row in front of that again. So you should see we've got 2 rows of our white stitches visible between our beak and the start of the crest. There is his little mohawk. So then I'm going to grab his 2 little claws. Now, if you look at his underbelly, it's completely white. Now, on some of the birds, it's easier to spot where they should go than on others, but loosely, they should be positioned on the sides near the front. So I'm going to just very roughly pin these on. And then just check to see if he stands. Okay, so when I stood mine up just then, I could see he was rocking really, really far forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my feet forward to help tilt him a little bit further back. And that's exactly what you should do with your feet as well. So pin them on initially, just loosely on the bottom, then stand your bird up and see which way he rocks and see which way you need to move your feet to stand him upright. So in the end, I ended up moving my feet backwards a little bit, but I got him standing the way I wanted him to be. And at this point, you can also hold your wings up to your little bird and just make sure everything's looking the way you think it should. Yeah, I'm going to basically take some of my white yarn and sew on each of these pieces. So I'm going to start by sewing on the feet, and I'm sorry to say guys, there's no real trick to this. Just make sure that they are really firmly anchored where you've pinned them. Now if you're someone who gets tangled really easily, use a much shorter strand of yarn than I'm using. I also get tangled very easily, but to me that's out-trumped by how much I hate threading needles. Even though I have gotten better at it over the years, I just prefer to thread my needle once, and so I would rather deal with the tangling of yarn. There's one foot, gonna give it the tug test. Oh yeah, that's not going anywhere. So then we'll go across and sew on the second one. Now after sewing my feet on, my little cocky now just face plants, but the wings will help weigh down his back a little bit more, so I'm not too concerned about that at this point. Now for the head crest, in order to sew them on, what I'm actually going to do is fold the front two forward like a little banana skin. It's not a phase, Mom. I'm going to sew them on in layers, basically. Being careful not to anchor them down too much because they are meant to like have a lot of attitude to them. So there is his crest. I don't know if I've really nailed it, but I think it's not bad considering I've made 5 other birds from the same pattern. So now we just need to attach his wings. Now, just as a general disclaimer, the down wings are infinitely easier to attach than the up wings. So for the down wings, I've got a pair of spare green ones here. You simply just like pin them in place so that the feathers point towards the spine and so that they form like these little shoulders just above where your feet are, and then just like sew them down around the shoulder portion and at the tips of the feathers. But for the up wings, they don't really want to hold their place very well, so you kind of have to finagle them a little bit. So I'm going to line mine up with the front of the feet, this straight line of the first feather and that shoulder. I'm going to start just by pinning it flat. And I'm going to like stick my thumb inside that shoulder joint, fold it forward and pin it from the back. See how we kind of created that little like curve around shape there? That tension is what holds the wing up and in position. So I'll do it again on the other side. You line the front of the wing up roughly where you want it to go and pin it flat to the body. Stick your thumb in the shoulder joint, fold the wing forward and pin it up there. See, I pinned that too far down, so I'm going to move that up a little bit. So when I sew that on now, I have to be careful to sew everywhere it's pinned. So from that first feather up around that shoulder, and then I have to be extremely careful to sew the wing where we've pinned it in behind, because that is what holds the wings up into their little like caw position. You can also choose to anchor the tallest feather to the head or into the crest if you really want to lock in that pose. And make sure when pinning your wings that your bird still balances. So we are just going to sew these on now. And there is your finished cockatoo. Now that is normally where this video would end, but we have 4 more birds to go through really quickly. Okay, so we're going to try something new here. Let's see if it works. Pause on each of the following screens to read the full details of the changes you'll need for each bird, and let me know in the comments what I could do to improve this in future. To make a cockatiel, start in yellow, then change to grey for the beak, then back to yellow. Then change to white in the last stitch of row 8, then to grey in the last stitch of row 9. You will need 2 wings in grey, and I've done up wings as well as 2 feet in pale pink and 1 yellow crest. You'll also need to make 2 Pikachu cheeks in red by simply making a magic ring of 6 single crochet. To make the Indian ringneck, you work the first 7 rows in green, changing to orange for the beak. We are working colour changes in rows 8, 9 and 10, and I've rewritten those 3 rows here for clarity. Remember to always change colours in the stitch before you want the new colour to be active. Then finish the rest of the rows in green. You will need 2 wings in green, and I've used down wings for mine. As well as 2 feet in grey. To make the Peachfaced Lovebird, you start in green for the first 3 rows. Then for rows 4 through 10, you're going to swap between orange, green and yellow for the beak. I recommend carrying your orange around underneath your stitches rather than trimming it off and attaching it each time. You'll need 2 wings in green, and I've once again used down wings, as well as 2 feet in yellow. Finally, I am sorry for this screen. To make the rainbow Lorikeet, there are a lot of colour changes, so basically the whole pattern had to be rewritten to include them, which is why it's taking up the whole screen here. I promise I will show you the bird again in a minute. The brighter the colours you use for this pattern, the better it will turn out. Believe it or not, mine are a little bit muted compared to the actual bird. With the body made, you will need 2 wings in green, and once again I have used down wings, as well as 2 feet, again in grey. So there is your finished Cocky. I hope you had fun making him with me today. Now I want to hear from you in the comments. Which bird are you going to use this pattern to make? Is it one of these 5 or is it something else entirely? Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. Okay, bye. I'm sorry, I rattled your poor little bird brain.